A couple of days ago, I did a video on how to properly sight in your handgun, and it appears some people really had a problem with the advice I gave. So today, I want to take some of my dumber viewers to school. Hey everybody, Yankee here. You know, usually when people call me an idiot on the internet, I don't respond because, who am I to argue about being an idiot at all? But I do want to take exception to some of the things a couple of people said in one of my videos the other day where I was talking about how to properly sight your handgun. In that video, which I'll link in the upper corner of this video, I talked about how at a certain distance, it doesn't matter where you choose to sight your handgun because you're going to have like a golden zone where your bullet travels pretty flat and it really ain't going to make much of a difference. And a lot of people worry way too much on elevation when windage is far more important, and how most guns don't even adjust for elevation. So it's always funny when someone who has fixed sights asks, what distance should I sight my pistol in at? So I dealt with that in that video, and a lot of people came on and said, your advice doesn't make sense because you forgot to take things into account. Well, one of the things some people said I forgot to take into account is the parabolic travel of the bullet due to the shape of the earth. Well, first off, I don't believe it would be a parabolic path. I think it would be an elliptical path. But, terms aside, that's not going to take effect in the amount of distance you're shooting. Before the curvature of the earth is going to take effect in where you're aiming, you're not going to be measuring that in tens of yards like you are with your self-defense gun. You're barely going to be measuring it in hundreds of yards. It's actually going to come into effect 1,000 yards or greater to where it's actually measurable. So when something's immeasurable in the distance you're talking about, well, then it's immaterial. It doesn't make sense. So for people who say, you didn't include that in your thoughts, you didn't include that in your advice, well, I also didn't include how the presence of unicorns affects the travel of your bullet because it has about the same effect. So for those of you that thought, you didn't take into account that, that travel and that shape of the earth, that doesn't take effect in such short ranges. If something is immeasurable, then it's pretty much not existent as far as practical purposes are concerned. So I wanted to clear that up with some people out there. But the main thing I wanted to clear up that a lot of people had a problem with is that I forgot to mention bullet rise. And you know what? I thought we were beyond this. I thought we lived in a world where people were smarter than that. Bullets don't rise. Bullets don't have lift. Bullets go in a straight line until air friction and gravity takes their toll on them. The air friction slows them down and gravity pulls them down. Air can also put them side to side there, but usually it's just slowing them down and gravity pulls them down. That's the reality of a traveling bullet. And some people are like, well, you forgot to say also that the bullet starts going down the second it comes out. Once again, not in any measurable amount over a certain period of time. So remember, immeasurable pretty much means don't worry about it. So no need to mention it. But getting back to bullet rise. Bullet rise is something people used to think happened because they're like, at some point the bullet rises just enough to get up level with the sights. Well, that's bunk. It's garbage. Bullets don't rise. They're like, it's like a wing of an airplane. No, the wing of an airplane is shaped differently on the top and the bottom to create different pressure levels. You have higher pressure on the bottom, lower pressure on the top because the air travels over it quickly in a little arch, and that causes the plane to go up. If bullets were designed like that, they'd be unstable and they wouldn't travel straight. So bullets aren't designed like that. Bullets don't have lift. So there is no such thing as bullet rise. When people were talking about bullet rise back in the day, they were making it sound like, and some people believe this, that the bullet came out of your gun and because of its velocity, it went up a little bit and then it was level with your sights. That's not how it works. When you're adjusting your sights for elevation, for distance, you're actually making it to where the sights tilt downward to where they intersect with that path of the bullet at some point. The bullet is never coming up to meet the path of the sights or the line of sight of the sights. That's a fallacy. It doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. So for those people, I say, you're absolutely right. I didn't mention that because it doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. And I know most people probably didn't take physics, or if they did, they took it so long ago they don't remember. But like I said, That isn't something that happens. Bullets travel straight. They're designed to travel as straight as possible. If you designed them to have lift, well, for one, they wouldn't be able to spin, and two, they wouldn't travel straight. So, not happening, not a thing. So when you're sighting your gun, as I said, usually you're not going to have to worry about elevation because your gun's not even going to have adjustments for elevation. So distance isn't really going to matter that much. As long as you're within the distance you can actually see easily. And the bullet travels flat. Like if you have a flat traveling bullet for 60 yards, well, anything within that 60 yards is fair game. Bullet rise does not have an effect. It isn't a thing. And the curvature of the earth isn't going to have an effect in that short of a distance. So for the people that called me stupid because I didn't mention those, like I said, I don't mention things that don't matter because it just confuses people. And apparently sometimes it confuses people when you just say things that are true. Please hit that like button and share this video on whatever social media you have. Since this is a restricted channel, you're the only chance we have to overcome YouTube's anti-2A bias and discrimination.